I want to talk a little bit about health. This rather complicated diagram points out the major causes of child mortality. And as you can see, we've got diarrheal diseases causing 17% of child mortality, of which almost 90% are caused by poor water and sanitation. Malnutrition underlies 35% of child deaths. Neonatal deaths occurring just after birth account for 37%, and we see new evidence that shows that hand washing among midwives and mothers can have a huge impact on neonatal survival. And pneumonia is not something you think as being necessarily connected to water and sanitation, is in fact impacted by hygiene. Hand washing can be an important way to reduce the spread of respiratory tract infections. So if we know that we need to combat those diseases, we know we need to combat them through better water, sanitation, and hygiene, particularly diarrhea, because diarrhea is the second biggest killer of children, then what do we need to do? And we've got some new evidence that tells us this. And for water engineers like myself, these data have a bit of a surprise. It turns out the water supply is actually not as important as we thought. It's there, but it's overshadowed by the importance of hygiene, sanitation, and the actual quality of water that people drink. So this has some important implications for the programming that organizations like UNICEF do. What does it mean that we do? What's the message for us? Clearly, we have to continue with water supply. We have to continue with wash in schools. And for UNICEF, we also do a lot of water and sanitation in emergencies. But it means that we also need to focus on some essential interventions. Hygiene promotion, particularly hand washing, home water treatment, and better promotion of sanitation. We need to catch up rapidly in order to deal with the sanitation crisis. So let me talk about a few of those essential interventions in turn. Sanitation is obviously our biggest challenge. Not only are we lagging badly behind in sanitation, but it's clear that the approaches that we've been using just haven't worked. So what do we need to do? And I think it's particularly appropriate that in this, the International Year of Sanitation, we're talking about what has otherwise been a bit of a taboo subject. But more and more practitioners are talking about this. Some new approaches are emerging which concentrate on sanitation as a behavior change issue. How do we stimulate in people who are not using toilets an understanding of why it's so important and what they need to do, and how can we empower them to make decisions such as investing in a toilet. The International Year of Sanitation has definitely led to more momentum on this issue. It has led to political will. We have reports of a large number of countries that have undertaken activities during the International Year of Sanitation and who have seen politicians in particular, who are not usually want to talk about sanitation, getting up and talking about how important it is. Hand washing. As I've said, hand washing with soap can reduce diarrheal diseases by over 40% and can also have a huge impact on respiratory tract infections. And this is, again, a behavior change issue. It has to do with empowering people to understand why they should change a very basic behavior. This year, the International Year of Sanitation saw the first ever Global Hand Washing Day. For us, this was an enormous success. We went into the first Global Hand Washing Day thinking that we'd do it in maybe 10 countries and get maybe 1 million children involved washing their hands at noon on Global Hand Washing Day. By the time we finished, we had 80 countries and 250 million children had washed their hand on Global Hand Washing Day, which actually makes us wonder what on earth we're going to do next year. How are we going to top that? But this is something that we hope to see gaining a great deal of momentum, Global Hand Washing Day. And I think the great thing about it is it resonates globally. It's not just developing countries that need to worry about hand washing. It's also countries like the United States and Australia and others. And finally, home drinking water treatment, as I've said, can also have a huge impact on diarrheal disease, particularly cholera. This is a challenge for organizations like UNICEF because it means we have to work with the local private sector to make sure that home drinking water treatment products are available on the market. So this too challenges us to a great extent to adopt some new approaches. Finally, I'd just like to give you a little bit of a summary on what UNICEF, my organization, is doing. We work in 96 countries in water and sanitation. We do wash in schools in many of those countries. It's a very important part of our programming. We have a large number of staff, most of which are nationals of the countries where we work. And in addition to doing what we would call development water and sanitation, we also do a great deal of work on emergency WASH, responding to emergencies around the world. More and more we're seeing that our work has to be put in the context of climate change. It's quite clear that climate change is going to make some of the problems associated with water and sanitation, the diarrheal diseases, the other infections, far more widespread. So we definitely see that the work that we're doing here is part of the whole initiative to make sure that we address climate change. So thank you very much. It was a great honor to be able to address you today.